RMS St Helena, ready to depart. You'll be docked to proceed inbound. If you give us traffic and clearance, please. Tower Bridge Radio, St Helena, approaching Mast House Terrace, be with you in half an hour.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome your host, founder and CEO of Formula E, Alejandro Agag.
Good morning everyone, and welcome to the St Helena. Welcome to what I think will be the biggest adventure of our time. And if not, just look around, look where we are. When I was a kid, that's when my love for the ocean started. And it started only for one reason. I watched these documentaries from the French biologist Jacques Cousteau. And only by watching that, since I was a kid, that changed my perception and created my love for the ocean. That's how powerful the image is, a documentary can be. And especially Jacques Cousteau made me dream because he had a boat. He had the Calypso. And my dream would be that this ship becomes the new Calypso. The Calypso of the 21st century. But this is not something that we just can say. This is something we need to earn. So my hope is that we can make this ship the base for a huge exploration, for a huge adventure, to showcase, because sadly now it's not the same situation as 40 years ago. 40 years ago, Cousteau was showcasing all these beautiful animals on their environment. Now we're going to showcase the huge challenges that our planet faces. And we're going to do that, and I want to thank David de Rothschild, that is going to be our chief explorer at large, and Fisher Stevens, who is going to be our artistic director, and everyone else in the team, Gilles Leferran, Neil Taylor, the whole team, because we want to show the world from this ship what's going on. And we're going to do it the way we know to do it, which is with a race. And there's a video now, but later I will introduce you to someone who knows a lot about racing, Gilles Leferran. Him and I, brainstorming one day, having a coffee, came up with this idea. Let's see the video, and then let's listen to Gilles after. I'll introduce him.
Planet Earth, 4.5 billion years old. Beautiful, diverse, at risk.
Residents are advised to limit their time outdoors. Look over my shoulder here at what's being called a superstorm tonight.
Officials say have already been evacuated tonight.
Sounding the alarm about
And we begin with a wildfire alert.
NASA scientists have proven that 17 of the 18 warmest years on record have occurred since 2001. We are now at a pivotal moment in history. We are the last generation of the human race that can still prevent catastrophic climate change and species extinction. Reducing our reliance on fossil fuels and transitioning to clean energy sources is one of the most impactful ethical choices we can make. Formula E and some of the most innovative global car manufacturers are leading the way in realizing this vision of a sustainable, emission-free future. And now, this same team has developed a groundbreaking and truly epic global mission for our threatened times, Extreme E. Extreme E is a pioneering all-electric race series that will showcase electric vehicles being pushed to their limits in the world's most extreme environments. Racing through already damaged ecosystems, this expeditionary series will bring us face to face with the consequences of the climate crisis and mankind's impact on the planet. Base camp for this mission will be the St Helena, an iconic former postal ship, now reconstituted as cargo vessel, scientific research hub, and race headquarters. From here, this cutting-edge 21st century expedition will aim to raise awareness of the plight of our planet, help effect change on a global scale, and aid the survival of the natural world for future generations. Motor racing is about speed, about making every second count. We now need that same ethos, that same desire to win more than ever in the fight against climate change.
So when we started Formula E, and you know, Formula E is going to be kind of an operating partner of Extreme E. Even being independent, we're going to be really close. But when we started Formula E, very few people believed in Formula E. But really at the beginning, even before the first race, we were lucky that one big racing champion, IndyCar winner, former Formula One team principal, and now he's leading the racing of McLaren Formula One team, believed in Formula E. Said, guys, I'll be your ambassador or whatever you want me to be. I just want to help in this. And he did at the time. And since then, we became friends. We've been talking many, many times. And one morning we were just discussing things, and he actually came up with this concept of taking this race to the different, remote, extreme corners of the planet. So I give you Gilles de Ferrer. Gilles.
Thank you. Well, good morning, good afternoon, I guess already. Wow, I have to say I'm a little nervous. You know, this is probably 2 years ago when we started talking about this, or about a year and a half ago, and to be here today, standing, I was going to say sitting, but standing in front of all of you here, it's a big moment, Alejandro. So that's really amazing, and at least for me, very touching, you know. So I think the best way to talk a little bit about Extreme E is I'll talk a little bit about me. How's that, huh? And you know, I guess some of you may know me as a racing driver, or an ex-racing driver. These days I'm old and a little bit overweight, as you can tell. But I think I like to see myself as perhaps more of a dreamer. You know, I had a passion for motorsports ever since I was a young kid. I started racing when I was very young, back in Brazil, and I had a dream. I had a dream that I wanted to be a racing driver, and thankfully I enjoyed a very nice career in racing that took me all over the world, and I met some incredible people like Alejandro. I met my wife, actually, who will be here later today through my ventures in motorsports. And so that's one of my passions that is probably most well known. But I also have a passion, I think, for the environment. That's very important to me. I think we all have a responsibility to leave this planet in better shape than what we found. I also have a passion for technology. I studied engineering ever since I can remember. I was knee-deep, drawing little pictures of cars and everything. So I have a huge passion for technology, and I guess I also, like Alejandro, have a little propensity for adventure. I guess so. Otherwise, I wouldn't be standing here in front of you today. And in my wanderings, in my head about how to bring this, all these passionate elements all together, I've always been thinking, how do we do this? How do we bring the competition, to highlight all the technology that is available today that can also help the environment? How do we highlight the challenges that we're facing as human beings in the planet today? How do we bring this all together? How do we bring this all together in a compelling, in an entertaining way? How do we touch people? And as Alejandro said, we're often together. Conversation always flows. And we were having breakfast one day and talking about Formula E, which, by the way, I think has done a tremendous job in right from the beginning. And I was 100% behind what you've did, and fantastic. Congratulations. 5 years later, Alejandro? 5 years later, and here we are. What a success. Congratulations.
Thank you.
And so anyway, we're having breakfast and we're having this free-flowing, brainstormy conversation, and really the concept, I think, crystallized in that breakfast, and then obviously we had several conversations afterwards, and came up with this concept. And like I said in the beginning, to be here today, the first step towards the realization of this dream is really fantastic. So, what are we doing? Well, we're racing electric SUVs in the world's most extreme environments, and this will showcase this environment, showcase the talents, showcase the technology behind these SUVs. And to be honest, it's a great big adventure that we're going to go through. And just standing here in this boat, you get the feel for this adventure, crossing the oceans, even trying to get to these places is already challenge number one. Never mind after the green flag drops, when we're going to see the usual man and machine taken to the extreme and all the excitement of competition. So the format of these competitions are going to be about 10Ks, head-to-head races, very much in World Cup sort of elimination style. So it's a format that's familiar to a lot of people in this planet. I think when we were thinking about the locations, we're thinking, okay, what are the environmental challenges that we're trying to highlight, and how can we do that in a compelling way? So here, as you can see, some of the challenges that we're trying to highlight, and then what kind of locations can help highlight this challenge. So we thought the Arctic, the mountains, the Himalayas, the desert. I think, can you imagine the pictures of us racing in the desert? That would be incredible. Tropical rainforest, very close to my heart, being Brazilian. And all the challenges that we have with rising ocean levels and plastic pollution in the ocean. So essentially, that's it. I look forward to talking to you later, either one-on-one or answering questions later on. Thank you.
Thank you. You stay here. Thank you, Gilles. Thank you very much. And you know, I think this is the first day, like you say, of a you know, I think a great adventure in front of us. And I'm going to give maybe a bit more detail on what we're going to do with these races. Gilles mentioned the 5 ecosystems where we are going to race, but that's me. There. To race, we need a car. And it's a bit of a similar situation, not really similar, but we are going to make these cars from scratch. There are similarities and differences to Formula E, but we want, and this was also the origin of the idea, to race with cars that look like cars that people can buy then for their daily lives. That is the main difference with Formula E. You cannot really buy a Formula car to, you know, go to the office the next day or anything like that. But we wanted to showcase electric cars in a competition that then people can buy. So in this championship, we are going to provide a common chassis and a common battery, same as we do in Formula E, to keep control of the cost of these cars and this championship. We are going to allow, like in Formula E, the teams and the car manufacturers that decide to join this championship to have their own powertrain, so their own technology, excluding the battery that will be common. They will be able to have their own powertrain. So there is a motivation for competition. We cannot forget that this is a race. This is a technology competition. This is not only showcasing the documentaries in the nature and so on, which is of course a great part of it, but it's at the heart of it, it's a real race, and these teams want to win and these drivers will want to win. So we will allow them to have their own technology in the car, but we will also allow, and this is the main difference with Formula E, to have the outside, the bodywork, the shell of the car also different. So brands that come in with their own SUVs will have these cars looking like their own street cars, which is what is going to make the link between this championship and the road cars. McLaren is already developing the first battery. It's based on the current Generation 2 Formula E battery, but with twice the power, because these cars are going to have 2 motors, Formula E spec motors, so they're going to have twice the power of a Formula E car. So we will go to a region close to 500 kilowatts of power. So these cars are going to be true beasts. Spark Racing Technology, who has been our partner in Extreme E making the cars, is already developing the first prototype. We will have the first prototype in April. We will be starting, we will test for 2-3 months, like we did with the Formula E's. We will start the production of the cars for the teams, the chassis for the teams, in July of this year. And in November, we will deliver the cars, 1 car per team. We will start doing race simulations, and in September 2020, or October, because September 2020 is my 50th birthday, and I want to celebrate it here in this place. So we will leave in October 2020, we will sail off with St Helena to our first location. And the first race will be, I think we're going to do it January, so 2 years from now, January 2021. So just amend this slide to January 2021. How is the racing going to be? Oh, and there was a video that I probably would have to cue in. Let's cue the video now. I'm going to explain how the race is going to be, but we're going to see it in a short video.
The race format of Extreme E sees global manufacturers line up against each other head-to-head. Each round of this unique competition takes place over 4 days of intense racing. 12 teams split into 2 groups of 6, with each team taking on the other in a 5-round group format. 4 teams qualify from each group to a knockout quarter-final stage. The quarter-finals give way to 2 semi-finals, with 4 teams left in, and then to the final. any victory is a true test of driver skill and team engineering. Racetracks are between 6 and 10 kilometres, desert, ice and jungle terrain already damaged by climate change. 5 rounds make up a dramatic TV series which brings us face to face with the urgent challenges now facing the planet.
So I think you really see there how the competition is going to be. So it's almost like a tennis open or a football world championship. So you get the groups, quarterfinals, semifinals, final. It's not going to be broadcasted live. It's going to be all filmed and edited and done on episodes. And Fisher, Stevens will speak more about the concept and the media product that we're going to be. But this is also important because the branding that we're going to have, and we are, good opportunity now to say that we have a founding partner, even before, so in Formula E we had some founding partners when we started. In Extreme E we have a founding partner when the first day, before we started, which is Continental. I want to welcome, and he will come on stage, Philippe from Continental. Thank you so much. Well, you're coming later to talk to me, but I wanted to introduce you now because we will have all the branding. So you will see the cars and you will see our sponsors, but everything will be virtual. Everything will be digital. We will not put anything physical on these beautiful and pristine environments. So the races will be head-to-head, will be incredibly exciting, and everything will be based here. 5 teams will be based where you are sitting. 7 teams will be based just there. So you see that and that are huge platforms that close, and there is another floor on top of us. So 7 teams on top, 5 teams down here, and then that roof completely opens. So imagine this open to open air. So actually this becomes like a huge production studio. This is the paddock. This is the floating paddock that is going to take these cars all over the world. And I will stop a moment with the history of St Helena, because I think that we are in this ship is really destiny. I was reading an article on BBC about the opening of a new airport in the island of St Helena. And of course, I remember St Helena from my history lessons in school as the place, the island where Napoleon was sent in exile, and he died there. And they sent him there because he was such a troublemaker, and, for our French colleagues, that first they sent him to Elba, but he escaped and invaded Europe again. So then they sent it far, far, far away to the farthest place they could think of, which was the island of St Helena. And that island was so steep that they couldn't build an airport for many, many years. So the only way to get on and off that island was on this ship. And I found that story incredibly attractive and kind of romantic. So when I read the article that they were opening an airport, in the last paragraph they said they're not going to need their ship anymore, so the ship is going to be decommissioned. And so I said, that's our ship. I don't know why I said that, but this is our ship. So that's the history of St Helena. That is, we're going to incredibly change this ship. We're going to make it sustainable. We're going to try to have every single possible green technology in this ship. We're going to even, and we were discussing with Fisher and with David, the carpets are going to be sustainable, the fabrics, the materials, everything in the ship is going to be as sustainable as it is. But also, this room we are in is going to look something like that, or even a lot cooler, with screens everywhere. This is going to be, if you imagine the James Bond movie, the place where the bad guy has his base, this is going to be like that. And you're going to be the bad guy. So these are some examples for some of you who will, our partners. Continental will spend some time here, CBMM, Niobium, the drivers. Some of you will spend some time. These are some examples of, it's going to be pretty cool. That's going to be the restaurant. We're going to have to do shifts. This is going to be an example of the cabins. Anyway, I'm looking for a slide that is not here, and that is very important. We have here with us the CEO of SkySails. SkySails It's one of the concepts that we're going to integrate. I think David will speak a little bit more about it. It's a giant kite that is going to be on the front of the ship. It's a system of propulsion with a wing. Our objective, and the CEO of SkySail, Stefano, told me that it's possible to go forward at 7 knots with 0 engine. So only with the wing. If we want to go at 14 knots, we put some engine, a little bit, but we still have the sail. So we reduce at 50% the fuel that we will use. That's only one example, but an incredibly powerful example of what can be done applying green technologies to a ship like this one. Sorry, David, I just went to your slide. Anyway, this is what I want to tell you at this stage. I am really excited about this. As you know, I am CEO of Formula E now. We have announced that I'm going to transition to chairman of Formula E. And once that happens, and there is a new CEO in Formula E, I will take probably a quite leading role on this venture. And I think this is really the next step, the next frontier for electric racing. We did with Formula E 5 years ago, I think something that is really pushing electric cars, promoting electric cars. I think with this one, we're not only going to promote electric cars, but we're going to highlight those huge challenges that we have in the planet. And there is a phrase which I also use sometimes, which is we have to save the planet. Planet is going to be fine. The planet has been here for 4.6 billion years. The ones who are not going to be fine, it's us. We have to save the planet as the home for humans. Otherwise, we will just be like a small blip in the life of this planet. Let's try not to do it. Thank you all for coming. Thank you for your support. And I give you our chief explorer, who I'm going to introduce one second, David Rothschild. David, it's been not so easy to convince David to join us, because David is a true environmentalist. He's an explorer. He built with plastic bottles this ship boat, and with a boat built with plastic bottles, he crossed the Pacific Ocean. Let's hope this one is going to be a little bit more comfortable than your first one, but it's been for me great to be able to convince him to join us. We are going to go all over the planet looking for the places where to race. And David is going to be in charge of that huge mission, all those expeditions, to choose the right places, because it's very important for us to choose the right places to race. We don't want to go and destroy an environment that is already there. We want to go to places where we're going to make a contribution, where we're going to work with the local communities, where we're going to leave a good heritage behind. David has that responsibility. David Rothschild.
You want this? I don't know. Oh, that's me. So obviously I'm not a racing car driver. I didn't get I got the wrong height memo, I guess. But I'm David. Nice to meet you guys. Hard to see you. It's obviously very exciting to be part of something different. And I think this is my, sort of, as I would say, we're a month together, maybe. It's a very recent conversation. But I'm excited about the opportunity. As an environmentalist, I feel like I've been talking inside of an echo chamber, literally, for the last 20 years. I've been doing environmental work going around the world. I'm secretly just a nature lover. I love nature. I feel way more comfortable being outside than I do inside. I was the kind of kid at school that your parents, when they dropped their kids off at school, would say, don't sit next to David, he'll get you kicked out of class, because I was more interested in being outside of the classroom than inside of the classroom, which was kind of a dream for me, to be kicked out, because then I got to go off and explore. I think we're all explorers. So the idea of being called explorer at large or chief explorer is a very lofty title that I guess I have to live up to, because we are all born explorers. And as we get older, that exploration is sometimes, unfortunately, taught out of us. We're taught not to touch, not to taste, not to see things, not to engage. And as we get even older, our egos get in the way, and we are afraid of maybe being wrong. And right now, we're doing things very wrong on this planet. And the time has come, I believe, to start trying to create narratives that can inspire a new generation of environmentalists, try and bring people to a message that they may not normally want to go and engage with. So when I first heard about the project, saw the boat, thought about the concept, I started to think about this idea of Race for Nature. How do we use this platform and how do we harness the imagination? How do we start to change the narratives that we've heard? I don't know about you, but I see a lot of the narratives every day. You just have to look at the news. Fire, floods, things are changing faster than anyone expected. We really are in a race for survival. And so for me to try and figure out a way to unlock a new narrative for nature, to try and harness not just our heads, but our hearts. We are nature and nature is us. So to try and create that connection, to try and create a new narrative is super exciting. And so to have this opportunity, I think, to really use it as a sort of a hub for curiosity, for a platform for connecting the dots on solutions, technologies that can help us to live more sustainably on Spaceship Earth. If you think about it, the most frustrating thing about the situation we find ourselves in is that every single problem that we face today, we have solutions for today. That's the most frustrating thing that I think. And so to be able to kickstart and to be able to elevate, celebrate those solutions is highly important. For me, the Race for Nature component of this, I don't know a huge amount about racing cars, but what I do know about is how to convene minds to try and change the narratives that we have and to try and encourage and to elevate the people who are doing things right. Because there's a lot of people who don't have the platform, and this hopefully becomes that floating platform. Physically, I think about the vessel itself as a sort of, a kind of, as we said, sort of Calypso 2.0. This should become a place for innovation from every single component of the ship. This is something that we were talking about earlier, but this should become a platform for curiosity where we can not only use this space for the teams, but use this place as a floating example of what is possibility. It's very important that we focus on as well. There's some negative stories and very pressing stories, but let's also focus on the possibility. Let's focus on the future technologies that we have, showcase those technologies, bring a new narrative to them, and elevate them with the help of Fisher and the team, with the conversations that we can have around this, I think are extraordinary. And this becomes the base camp. So for me, my role is to just go out into these environments and tread that very fine line of where we can actually go and not to leave a footprint that is more damaging or leave a footprint that is going to create negative impacts. So we have to try and figure out that, and that's my challenge and the challenge that I'll be working on in the run-up to these races. But I think this space here becomes super exciting when we start thinking about those solutions. And I think as a sort of parting sort of thought, this is day one, and this is something that is going to only build momentum, that can only happen with everybody. This is not my planet, this is not my cause, this is, this is all of us, right? It's Buckminster Fuller in 1963 said it has to be everybody or nobody. This is Spaceship Earth. Nature is the crew on Spaceship Earth that allows us to fly on this incredible planet. And without this opportunity to work together, we really are just going to be that blip. And these are conversations we've been having for a while, and it really is a race for nature. So I'm excited to use this platform as an opportunity to bring together great minds, scientists, storytellers, artists, creatives, people who can showcase what is possible, and hopefully that's something that you guys can all be involved in. So from my side, I guess the race has begun. I'll pass back to you.
Thank you, David, and great to have you with us. We're going to have so much fun going to all those places and exploring. I'm going with him, of course. And now I want to introduce you to a person that for 1 year has become a very dear friend. We've been working together in this project. And in the beginning, he didn't want to work in this project. And the project was a documentary that we've done about Formula E. He will speak more about it. But Fisher Stevens, is a great filmmaker, Academy Award winner for the movie he produced, The Cove, about the massacre that was going on with the dolphins. And also, the latest documentary is done before the flood, highlighting the huge problems also with the environment. And for us, it's really a privilege and a challenge at the same time, because he's very strict on his principles. He's a true artist. I know, because I try to make suggestions sometimes to make some change in the film that we've done, and there is no chance, because Fisher wants to do the movie that he believes is the right movie. So it's a great privilege for us to have him as the artistic director of Extreme E. He's the one who will help us create those images that will then capture the imagination of those kids, like the one I was 4 years ago, and then will commit those kids that message, highlight the big problems to the massive audience, because we need everyone working in the same direction. Fisher, please.
I don't really need this. Yeah, that's me telling Alejandro, I'm not gonna make you look like a movie star. You're gonna. So, okay, we could lose the pictures, I guess. Yeah. Hi. So my background is very different. Also, like David, just to give you a sense of racing in my life, my girlfriend is from South Africa, and about 5 years ago she goes, "Let's go see this movie called Senna," and I go, "Why?" And she goes, "It's about Ayrton Senna," and I said, "Who is that?" I had no idea who Senna was. Racing never really interested me. So when Leonardo DiCaprio, who I did Before the Flood with, called me to come down to meet Alejandro and check out this thing called Formula E about racing, I honestly had no real interest to check it out, although it was in Brooklyn, so it was easy. I live in Brooklyn. So I met Leo, and I went down, and I saw those cars, and I have to say, it did kind of jar a kind of childhood. It's kind of cool, actually. It is cool, and it goes, you know, and there's no gas, and then I met this guy, and he was such a character, Alejandro, hello, you know, and it was like, okay. And then Leo said, "Let's make a movie about this." I said, I still don't think so, man. I got a lot of stuff going on. And then Alejandro was like, "Come to Valencia and just check out the cars, meet the drivers." So I went down to Valencia, met Alejandro, and I met these guys, these drivers, and the message of spreading electric vehicles through sport was really enticing. Because I've been making these movies with Sylvia Earle about the oceans, and making a movie with Leo going to these devastating places. And my audiences were basically people that already believed in this. And when I met these drivers, and I started actually talking to Nelson Piquet and Jean-Eric Verne about climate change, and they didn't really give a shit about climate change before they got into Formula E. But then they started like thinking about it, and I thought, if those guys could start thinking about climate change and actually recycling, which is like, they all go, "Oh, well, I recycle and I don't want to kill animals." I go, "Guys, that's this big, come on. You know, it gets much deeper. What if we can get people who are into these race car drivers to understand that the planet is going to shit, and use sport to tell the story of climate change?" And through the year of working with Alejandro on this movie, I have to say it's been quite enlightening, and showing the rough cuts, and you guys will all hopefully see it. We're almost done. It's been an incredible adventure for me as a filmmaker and a storyteller to try to get different audiences, because I think sportswomen, people who are into sports are gonna watch this movie and learn a lot about the environment in a subtle way. So when Alejandro asked me to do this, I, like David, I was like, "Alejandro, you're gonna go to these beautiful places and mess them up? That's not cool. That's not the way it should be." And he's like, "No, we're gonna go to beautiful places that were beautiful, that have been messed up, but that we can kind of help rebuild and restructure." So I thought, okay, well, we need people like David de Rothschild and to get involved. And when David was involved, so I'm not the only kind of environmental person involved, because Alejandro and Gilles are sportsmen. So I think the marriage could be something special. The storytelling will be very different in that it's not just about the race, it's about where we race, the people that live in the places that we race. So the people in the Amazon, the people living in the Arctic, the people living in the Sahara, the people living in the Himalayas are part of the narrative story. And to me, as Leo and I went to all those places, and I've been to those places on a few films, I'm just telling the story of climate change, but if I can do it through sport, through competition, which is something that people really love, and have these people part of the story, have and it's not just the white man coming into these places going, okay, we're gonna race, and then we're gonna tear this place up, we'll help you build it, but we'll see you later. No, actually, these places that we go, and Alejandro's promised me this, that we're going to leave the places better than when we found them, and the people in the places we're going to help nurture and help their communities with electric, solar, clean power, or whatever they need. And that is part of the narrative of the series that we're going to tell, the 10-part documentary series. So it's not just about racing, it's also a fish out of water story. So you take people like David Coulthard or Alan McNish or whoever these drivers are, and you actually see these places through the driver's eyes. You get to let them experience not just the racing, but the people, the communities, and what their story is, and listen to their stories through the drivers. And then, the drivers get into these crazy cars and they risk their lives in this terrain. So that's part of the narrative. And then like the Calypso, this is part of the narrative. This boat, the people working on this boat, the people living on this boat. And as a storyteller, my job is to find great characters. Fortunately, I had Alejandro for Formula E. He was a character, and I had to pick who would be interesting, to focus on as a filmmaker. So we'll find great characters wherever we are, and also on the ship, whether it's the cook, whether it's somebody who's growing food sustainably on the ship, whether it's, a scientific researcher that comes on that we find. So it's really, the series is about people. It's not about only the race. It's the people racing, and it's all of that. So hopefully David and I are in line at keeping this, because it's a big vision. I have to say, working with Alejandro over the last year on Formula E, he's a visionary, and he thinks big and he thinks bold. And I'm gonna, with David, we're gonna take Gilles and Alejandro's vision and make it have integrity, keep it sustainable, bring partnerships in with people that are also visionaries, that are trying to change the world for better, but make money if you can make money at it. It is the businessmen like Alejandro that hopefully will push technologies, but we also have to be responsible, and that's kind of our job. So, and we'll make some great entertaining content that hopefully will blow all your minds. So that's basically all I have to say.
Thank you very much, Fisher. And I'm pretty sure I'll have David and Fisher very closely watching Gilles and the drivers and the teams and everyone. But that's a good thing. That's what we want. And I was saying before, Extreme E, it's a concept still. Well, it's a bit more than a concept. Look where we are. But we already have a founding partner, and this is a key element for us, to have people that we meet in the way, in this journey, that believe in the same concept, that believe or share the same values, and that, because we cannot do it alone, I believe that we will make Extreme E together. So Continental approached us even very early with the idea, and very early when the idea was being born. I think it was just the first PowerPoint. And today we can say they are from the inception, as the founding partner of Extreme E. And Philip von Hirstedt is here. Please, Philip, welcome. Welcome, Philip, to Extreme E. And I'll go straight to the question. Why did you take this, which I would define quite bold step, to join from the start, from the beginning, a concept like Extreme E?
Yeah, I think, Alejandro, first of all, thank you that we are allowed to be one of the founding partner. I think the first time I heard about this idea, I thought, I mean, actually, this idea is crazy enough to change something. Yeah, and it is, I mean, they give you just one example. We have, as a corporation, we have the Vision Zero. This means we want to develop with our products that in the future we have first 0 fatalities, then we have 0 injuries, and finally we want to have 0 fatalities. The big vision which we are facing for and which we are heading for. And if we look into Extreme E, we can see that this triangle of safety, of performance, and you mentioned that very perfectly, it's about racing. Yeah, and it's about making the difference, and it's passion to win. Yeah? And that all embedded into sustainability is something which is really appealing, and where we wanted to say, okay, we want to be really, from the beginning, supporting with all our knowledge. We are engineered for extreme now, and trying to make with you this formula a big success.
Thank you, and I was watching your Instagram. It's brilliant, because I'm not really used to it. It's the first time I have a partner when I really start a project from zero. And I was watching the Instagram, and already you were doing these really cool videos of, are you excited yet? Are you curious yet? With the environment, with the desert, with the jungle, with and so on and so on. Only by joining forces we can make this really big. But there is also a very important thing. Cars, they need one fundamental thing, otherwise they cannot work, and that is tires. So for a championship, it's really, really important to have a tire partner. So that's why, tires, we're good now with Continent. Thank you so much.
Thank you,
Philip. Thank you for joining us. Stay 1 second. And not only one founding partner, we have 2 partners today. And this is a partner that is already very close to us, because it's a partner that is already in Formula E. And I want to see them in Brazil. And, I must say, Continental has been an incredibly speed of light negotiation and agreement. It's not that quick to have a partnership, but CBMM, Niobium said, no, but we have to be in. We have to be in. And especially because niobium is this mineral that changes the steel, makes it lighter, which then creates a huge saving of energy. But not only that, niobium, it's something that, and CBMM is researching, may replace cobalt in the batteries. And as you know, cobalt is probably the worst thing that is in those batteries. Batteries are the big challenge for the development of electric cars. Niobium can play a huge role. So I said, okay guys, but we need to start making these cars now, so we have to decide if we're going to put niobium on the car or not. So okay, let's do a partnership for the launch. Let's start putting the niobium in the cars, and then we keep discussing. So I'm convinced niobium will be a great partner. Already they're a partner. Already there's going to be niobium in the first prototype that we make, and hopefully we will have batteries on this ship that will have niobium components, and we get rid of that cobalt that we don't want. So I want to introduce to all of you Rodrigo Vargas Amado from CBMM from Brazil. So again, Rodrigo, welcome. I told the story of how this started. I think this car with the niobium in is going to be super cool, but why you think Extreme E is a good place for niobium?
Yeah, it was fantastic. I believe it was a little bit before you went to Brazil. It was in New York. Yes. We were having a cafe, and you showed the idea. And then we loved the idea, because it's all about the principles that we listen today, about sustainability, connecting to the community, developing technology to improve the environment, to improve the way that you connect with the life in this place, and also is a fantastic storytelling. So when you showed this project, I said you should come to Brazil to present to the board in CBMM, and you did it. And we start this by first was in the car, in the chassis, in terms of make it lighter, stronger, but we want to see in batteries, solar panel as well, as I mentioned to you, wind power. So a lot of storytelling, bring this clean energy to places that probably they don't have, interact to the community in that place, so helping to have a better environment and a better life there.
Thank you, Rodrigo. And of course, I will need your help, because probably one of the first events, if we go to the tropical jungle, very likely will take place in the Amazon jungle in Brazil, which is one of the, of course, the areas that is more under threat of deforestation. So it's great to have you with us, great to have Continental, great to have all of you. So, you know, with this, we are done with the presentations. It's been a bit long, 50 minutes. Thank you for the patience of everyone. Nobody seems to be yawning yet. But welcome to the great adventure. And, you know, we are here for your questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you to all of the speakers. Before we finish off, we'd like to open questions to the floor. So if you could please stand up, state your name and publication, please.
Hazel Southwell, freelance. Fisher, you're the creative director for this. We know that in recent years it's been difficult to get audiences for both environmental documentary work and also for racing. How are you intending to represent this in a credible way for both?
Well, I think it's easier to get an audience for racing than it is environmental films. I don't know. It seems like it, but a lot more people watch racing than environmental films, I can tell you that. I think the difference is to try to sort of what we did with Formula E, the film. I know you haven't seen it yet, but it's sort of exciting, and it's about characters, and there's a race. There's a race for Formula E, who's going to win season 4. So if we're able to kind of combine that in a weekly series or like a 10-hour series, I think that's much more interesting to me than just having a host going around saying the glaciers are melting, the rainforest is being destroyed because of, you know, drilling of oil and like that. But if we can do it with a story of this boat and do it with a story of a race and have some drivers that people are interested in watching kind of risk their lives on logging roads or, you know, oil drilling roads in the Arctic, I think that's a different way in, which is what interests me in doing this. I mean, I have to say, you know, the cover of the New York Times today was extreme weather blanketing the Midwest. My family's in Chicago. They can't go outside. And then I have a moron president texting, oh, where is the global warming when we need it, you know? So what is it going to take to wake up, you know, people when you have a moron in the White House thinking that this isn't global warming? So let's do everything we can to try to wake people up. You guys in Europe and in England are much more, you understand global warming and climate change much better than we do, but and many people in the United States. But to actually witness it and to see people that you are interested in watching, witnessing it firsthand. So if you get David or Alan or whoever's driving in these situations, seeing it through their eyes, it could be really cool. And then having them race and seeing the glaciers falling in front of them, I mean, I think that's a great narrative that people will tune into. And the racing should be really cool. So.
Luke Smith, Crash.net. Alejandro, how are talks going with interested manufacturers and teams for this series? Are you talking to those in Formula E, outside of Formula E? How is interest so far?
Interest from manufacturers is very high. I think we have 9 manufacturers coming today in a different session from the one for the press, so like this you don't know who they are. But there is big interest from manufacturers. My personal opinion is that this is a great platform for manufacturers because they can showcase the cars that they will then sell on the street. And also there is a really important message for the manufacturers to showcase that the electric cars, especially electric SUVs, can operate in any extreme condition, any temperature, really hot, really cold, any surface, any condition. So I think it's a very attractive concept for manufacturers. But you know me, I also like a lot independent teams. I would like to have some really strong independent teams. We have the same rule, that we're going to apply the same rule in this championship as we have in Formula E. So a manufacturer will have to sell its powertrain to a client team if the client team wants to buy it at a maximum cap price, and then we will have an off-the-shelf bodywork for independent teams. We will have also an off-the-shelf powertrain for independent teams. So I want to have also independent teams as competitive as the manufacturers, a little bit like in Formula E. But yeah, interest from manufacturers so far is been great. Let's hope we can get some in.
Alejandro, how are you going to convince and negotiate with governments to let you go racing on land that's already damaged? What's the plan with that?
Well, the land will be already damaged, or will be already under pressure, or it may be not damaged, but it may have some conditions. So, for example, Fisher came up with an idea that I think is amazing. We could do one-offs outside of those 5 themes. For example, where there is a huge catastrophe, like the fires in California, we may do a one-off race in the place where that fire has destroyed all that forest. I think governments are going to be, once we show them what we want to do, are going to be quite keen on this concept. We've seen it with Formula E and the cities. And the big question was, how are you going to get cities to give you permission to race in the streets? And the answer has been very simple, because we're electric. I think the same is going to work for governments in those ecosystems. Also, the footprint of the track is quite small. If you think about it, it's 10 kilometers. We will do maybe 4 different loops of 10 kilometers to change a little bit the landscape, but we're not going to occupy a huge surface. So we haven't yet started talking with governments, and then once we start exploring and going to the places, we'll start talking with the governments. But I think it will be easier than with the cities and Formula E.
All right.
Very good. I think the cold is stopping the question.
That concludes our presentation. I'll just ask the speakers to give us a few more minutes for any one-to-one requests. We'll have print and online media up front here at the stage, whilst broadcast media at the back. Alejandro and Gilles, you can head over to the back, whilst David and Fisher, you can hang here for the next 5 or 10 minutes. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone.